Hello everyone. Today I will continue sharing with you the love story of the poor girl to Sam and Officer Lee. I hope you enjoy the video. In the days after losing her baby, to Sam was no longer herself. The room Officer Lee had carefully prepared for the mother and child, with gentle pastel colors and tiny items he had chosen piece by piece, had now become a place drowning in a pain that seemed endless. Sam spoke little, looked at no one, and rarely left the corner of the bed where she curled up like a leaf battered by a storm. Inside her, a cold emptiness grew wider by the day. Sometimes Lee would wake in the middle of the night to find Sam sitting on the floor, clutching the newborn clothes he had bought. She pressed her face against the tiny fabric, tears falling one by one, heavy like stones. "My baby didn't even get to wear these." Her voice cracked, breaking into pieces. Lee could only sit beside her, gently embracing her shoulders, so gently as if any firmness might hurt her even more. But no matter how much he comforted her, no matter how many times he whispered, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere," Sam's emotions remained swallowed by darkness. Some days she cried until her eyes were swollen red, then fell asleep right on those tiny clothes. Some days she stayed so silent that Lee felt the entire house had stopped breathing with her. When Lee took Sam back to the hospital for another checkup, the doctor looked at her file and sighed. "She's showing signs of severe depression after pregnancy loss. Right now, the most important thing is to keep family close. She needs constant presence, conversation, care. She needs to feel she's not being abandoned." Lee gently tightened his grip on Sam's hand. His heart hurt so much it felt hard to breathe. He knew that losing the baby wasn't just a shock for Sam. It was a wound so deep that no words could ever reach it. But he also knew he had to stay. He had to become the anchor she could cling to while her entire world collapsed. That night, Lee sat beside the bed watching Sam curled up, clutching the baby clothes as if holding her own life. He stroked her hair softly, his voice barely above a whisper, afraid to shatter her fragile emotions. "Sam, I'm here. No matter how much it hurts. I won't leave you alone." But Sam remained silent, her empty eyes staring into the endless darkness, the place where her baby had vanished forever. Ever since the doctor said Sam was at risk of severe depression, Officer Lee had barely left her side. But juggling work and caring for her left him exhausted. Every moment he was away, he lived in fear, terrified that in a few hours alone, Sam might do something desperate. That night, after Sam cried herself to sleep, Lee looked at her hollowed face, his heart twisting painfully. He stood up, stepped onto the balcony, and called his captain. "Sir." His voice was hoarse from lack of sleep. "I'd like to request extended leave. My partner is in serious psychological distress. I can't leave her alone." There was a few seconds of silence on the other end, then a deep, sincere voice. "Lee, you're one of the best officers we have. But right now, family matters more than duty. Take the leave. As long as you need. We'll handle things here." Lee closed his eyes, chest tightening. "Thank you, Captain. I owe everyone a great debt." When he returned to the room, Sam was still holding the tiny clothes, her breathing faint like a lost child. He sat beside her and gently pulled the blanket over her. "Sam," he whispered, knowing she wouldn't hear. "From today on, I'll be here. Every minute, every hour. I won't leave you alone anymore." The next morning, Sam woke to find Lee in the kitchen preparing breakfast. He wasn't wearing his usual uniform. Instead, he wore a simple t-shirt, his face tired but calm. She asked in a faint, raspy voice, "You aren't going to work?" Lee walked over and sat beside the bed, his eyes soft but unwavering. "I took leave. I'm staying home with you." Sam blinked. A flicker of emotion ran through her eyes but quickly dimmed again, like a flame without enough air to burn. "You don't have to. I can live on my own." It wasn't rejection. It was despair so deep she no longer dared to ask for anything. Lee took her hand, warm but trembling slightly. "I know you're strong, but no one should carry this pain alone. You don't have to pretend you're okay. You don't have to force yourself. You can hurt, you can cry, you can be weak. I'm here. I'll hold you up." Those simple words struck the shattered glass inside Sam's heart. Tears fell again, but this time she leaned toward him, resting her head on his shoulder. For the first time since losing the baby, Lee wrapped his arms around her, tight yet gentle. I took leave because I'm afraid of losing you," he murmured, his voice low enough for only her to hear. She didn't respond, but she gripped the fabric of his shirt, just a little, barely noticeable. Yet enough for Lee to believe that even in the deepest darkness, Sam was still trying to find her way back. During the days Lee stayed home to take care of her, Sam seemed calmer, but only on the surface. Deep inside, the pain still twisted and churned like a storm waiting for the smallest crack to burst through. That afternoon, Lee was hanging laundry on the balcony when he heard rustling in the baby's room. He thought Sam had gone in to sit quietly, as she often did. But when he stepped inside, the sight before him froze him in place. Sam was standing in the middle of the room, her hands trembling as she opened the tiny drawers Lee had carefully organized for their child. The swaddle blanket, the tiny socks, the soft pink knitted hat, all of them were clutched chaotically in her arms. "Sam!" Lee called softly, afraid to startle her. But she didn't hear him. She was trapped in her own world. Sam sank to the floor, hugging the little items as tears poured out of her like a dam breaking after days of being held back. Why didn't my baby get to use these?" Her voice cracked, thick with agony. Lee rushed toward her, but Sam backed away, gripping the tiny clothes as if holding her own soul. "My baby is dead," Sam screamed, her voice tearing through the air. "I couldn't protect my child. I'm the worst mother." Lee immediately knelt in front of her. "It's not your fault. Sam, listen to me. It was an accident." But she shook her head violently, tears falling onto the little knitted hat. "I promised I'd protect my baby. Promise. Why couldn't I save my own child?" Suddenly, Sam grabbed her head, her breath sharp and ragged. Her entire body trembled uncontrollably. Her face went pale, her lips quivering. Lee panicked. "Sam, are you okay? Sam, look at me." But she was no longer conscious enough to respond. Her body collapsed as if the whole world had come crashing down on her. Lee lifted her into his arms and ran to the car in pure terror. On the way to the hospital, he drove with one hand and held her tightly with the other. "Sam, stay awake, please. I'm scared, don't leave me." She was barely breathing, her eyes unfocused like someone drowning in a midnight sea. When they arrived, the doctors immediately took Sam into the psychological emergency ward. Lee stood frozen outside, hands clenched so tightly they turned white. A while later, the doctor came out, voice serious yet deeply sympathetic. "She had an acute panic attack combined with severe depression. We need to keep her here for treatment, at least for a few days, to stabilize her and prevent any risk of self-harm." Lee felt his body go numb. He leaned against the wall, feeling as if his heart was being squeezed mercilessly. Please save her. She's suffered enough." The doctor placed a gentle hand on Lee's shoulder. "We'll take good care of her. She'll be monitored 24/7 here. But the most important part is still your presence." Lee nodded, his eyes red but determined. "However long it takes, I'll wait for her. I won't let Sam fight this alone." That night, Lee sat in the hallway, watching through the glass as Sam slept under the mild sedative. He placed his hand against the window, whispering like making a vow. "Sam, don't worry. I'll pull you out of this darkness. No matter how many times you fall, I'll be here to lift you up." Inside that cold, quiet room, Sam's figure looked impossibly small. But Lee knew this was only the beginning of a long, painful healing journey for both of them. Sam remained in the white hospital room for 2 days. She was awake, but it was the kind of awakening that comes from sheer exhaustion after too many tears. Her eyes were empty, reflecting no life from the world outside. Lee stayed at the hospital almost 24/7. His face had grown visibly gaunt, but every time the doctors asked if he wanted to go home and rest, he shook his head. "No, I need to be here. If she wakes up and doesn't see me, she'll be scared." On the morning of the 3rd day, the psychologist, Dr. Ha, entered the room. Her voice was soft like a breeze. "Hello, Sam. How are you feeling today?" Sam didn't answer. She only hugged her knees, eyes fixed on the white floor. Lee stood beside her, gently stroking her hair. The doctor didn't push with questions. Instead, she opened a small box and placed it on the table. Inside was a thin booklet with a cover drawing of a baby sleeping peacefully in its mother's arms. "Sam," the doctor said quietly, This is a journal many mothers who lost their babies used to write down their feelings. Not to forget their child, but to live with that memory in a gentler way. Sam looked up, her eyes trembling. For the first time in days, something in her expression shifted. You can write anything. Tell your baby how you feel today. Or write what you wish your baby could hear. Write so you can breathe again. Sam touched the book. A small gesture, but Lee noticed it immediately. Her hand wasn't shaking as much as before, as if she had found a thin thread to hold onto in the dark. That afternoon, Lee returned with another small box. He sat beside her and handed it to her, his voice slightly trembling. I have something I want to give you. Sam opened the box. Inside was a tiny picture frame, empty. She looked up in confusion. Lee smiled softly, his eyes gentle like spring wind. I know we don't have any photo of our baby, but that doesn't mean our child didn't exist. He handed her a colored pen. Draw something, or write the baby's name. Even a single stroke is enough. This frame should hold something that belongs to your child, so you know your baby is still here, even if only in your heart. Sam bit her lip, and tears quietly streamed down her cheeks. But this time they weren't the violent tears of agony. They were lighter, like a small release. With trembling hands, she wrote 2 words on the frame. Little Sprout, the name she never got to say out loud. Lee looked at the words, inhaling deeply to swallow the rising emotion. You see, he said, placing his hand over hers. Your baby is still here, in the place they belong. Sam finally broke down, but this time she leaned into his shoulder, no longer pushing him away. She whispered, voice fragile as breath. I don't want to lose anyone else. Lee pulled her into a firm but tender embrace, his voice steady. You won't lose me. I'm here. And I'll stay until you're strong enough to step out of the darkness. That night, Sam opened the journal the doctor had given her and wrote the first line. Her handwriting still trembled, but it was clearer than before. My little Sprout, today I hurt so much. But because your father is here, I feel like I still have a place to lean on. That single line marked the first turning point of her healing. Small, but powerful enough to break a heart. In the following days at the hospital, small changes, very small ones, began to appear in Sam. But to Lee they were an entire universe of hope. That morning when Lee brought in her porridge, Sam didn't turn her face away like she used to. She looked at the bowl for a long moment, then softly said, her voice weak but clear, just leave it there. I'll eat it later. Lee froze. Such a short sentence. Yet it was the first time Sam had initiated any response since losing the baby. He set the bowl down and tried not to smile too brightly, afraid it might pressure her. Okay, take your time. By afternoon, Sam opened her therapy journal for the second time. She didn't write much, just a few lines. Today Mom ate a few spoonfuls of porridge. I know you still want me to keep living. Lee read it secretly when she fell asleep. He hugged the journal to his chest, eyes stinging. Thank you, Sam, for still trying. On the 5th day, the doctor checked on her again. When she heard that Sam wanted vegetable soup, something she used to love, the doctor smiled. That's a good sign. She's starting to reconnect with life. Lee let out a breath he'd been holding for days. That night, he rushed to a supermarket near the hospital, bought the ingredients himself, and went to the staff kitchen to cook a small pot of soup. The aroma drifted down the hallway. When he brought the bowl into the room, Sam stared at it for a long moment, then looked up. You cooked this? Lee nodded. Your favorite. Sam lifted the spoon and tasted it. Her eyes softened, shimmering faintly with emotion. It tastes just like before. Lee lowered his head, swallowing the lump in his throat. I found the exact type of greens you always bought. She finished half the bowl. Lee didn't say a word. He just sat beside her quietly, watching her eat with the warmest gaze in the world. That night Sam slept deeply, for the first time since the loss. No crying in her sleep. No jolting awake in panic. Lee sat beside her, adjusting the blanket. He looked at her peaceful face, her lips gently parted with steady breaths. In that moment he realized, Sam was coming back little by little. Slowly but truly. On the 7th day, when the doctor suggested she take a walk in the hospital courtyard, Sam nodded gently. Lee helped her put on a coat. They walked beneath the old almond trees, thin sunlight filtering through the leaves onto Sam's shoulders. She was tired but no longer avoiding the world. After a few minutes, Sam stopped. She looked up at the clear blue sky and whispered, "I want to keep living, but I'm afraid the pain will come back." Lee took her hand, the hand that used to be cold and trembling, now warmer. "You don't have to live alone. I'm here. If you're scared, I'll walk with you. If you hurt, I'll hold you. You don't have to be strong by yourself anymore." Sam bit her lip. Tears fell, but they were gentle tears, like a quiet release. She rested her head on Lee's shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for not leaving me." Lee squeezed her hand, smiling slowly. "I promised. I'll stay with you until you can smile with your whole heart again." That was the first day Sam took a steady step out of the darkness, the road ahead long, but no longer one she walked alone. After more than a week of treatment, the doctor told Lee that Sam was stable enough to be discharged, though she needed close supervision and a warm, safe environment with someone by her side. Lee nodded immediately, as if he'd been waiting for those words all along. He said only one sentence, firm and unwavering: "She will never have to be alone again." The morning Sam was discharged, sunlight was soft and warm. She walked slowly, her legs still unaccustomed to being free from the hospital bed. Lee walked close beside her, one hand supporting her back, the other carrying her things. Not because she needed it, but because he wanted to be ready to steady her anytime she faltered. When he opened the car door for her, he bent slightly, gentle as ever. "Step up slowly. I've got you." Sam settled into the seat, taking a deep breath. The thin sunlight on her face made her exhaustion visible, but beneath it was a faint, fragile peace. "You've worked too hard," she whispered. Lee buckled her seatbelt and smiled softly. "If it's for you, I'm happy to." Sam's heart tightened, not with the crushing grief from before, but with a rare warmth and gratitude. When they arrived home, Sam paused at the entrance. The familiar living room was still neat and warm, but to her, everything looked like a memory covered in a thin layer of dust. Lee placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "If you're not ready to go into the baby's room, we can keep the door closed. There's no need to rush." Sam's eyes drifted briefly to the pastel-colored door, and she silently nodded. Lee understood without another word. He led her to the main bedroom, where he had replaced the bedsheets, put away anything that might hurt her, and opened the curtains to let sunlight fill the room. "Rest a bit. I'll cook something for lunch." Sam sat on the bed, the softness beneath her making her eyes almost overflow again. "Officer Lee," she called softly. He turned. Sam lowered her face, her voice trembling. I'm afraid I'm still not okay. I'm scared I'll have another panic attack like before." Lee sat beside her, placing his warm hand over hers. "It's all right. No matter what happens, I'm here. If you cry, I'll hold you. If you can't sleep, I'll sit with you. If you're scared, I'll hold your hand." Sam's tears fell again, but she didn't wipe them away. She let Lee gently dab them with a tissue. He whispered, lifting the weight from her chest. "I'm not asking you to be okay today. Just live. I'll take care of the rest." For lunch, Lee brought up a tray with minced pork porridge, sweet leaf soup, and slices of apple cut into tiny heart shapes. Sam blinked in surprise. "You even cut the apples into hearts." Lee scratched his head, blushing. "I thought if they looked cute, you'd eat more." Sam let out a tiny laugh, the first since everything happened. Just one small sound, but enough to make Lee's eyes burn with emotion. That evening, Sam stepped onto the balcony and looked out at the city. The breeze was gentle, the distant traffic faint. Nothing could disturb the quiet surrounding her. Lee walked over and draped a coat over her shoulders. "Sleep tonight," he said softly. "I'll sleep on the sofa next to the bed. If you need me, just call." Sam looked at him for a long time, her tired eyes slowly warming. "Thank you for not abandoning me." Lee smiled gently. "I promised, and I keep my promises." That night, Sam lay in bed and, for the first time since losing her baby, slept without nightmares. Meanwhile, Lee lay on the sofa awake, quietly watching her under the soft yellow light. He knew Sam's healing journey would still be long and difficult, but today, she had finally taken a real step forward, and he would walk with her no matter how long it took. In the days after returning home, Sam slowly began learning how to live normally again. She was still tired, still drifted off sometimes as if her mind wandered somewhere far away, but the sudden panic attacks no longer came. Each morning, Lee prepared a small meal, set it in front of her, and asked, "Is there anything else you'd like to eat?" That simple question repeated every day, so gentle that Sam gradually found comfort in hearing it. One afternoon, while Lee was wiping down the dining table, Sam stepped out of her room. Her legs were still weak, but her face looked a little brighter. She stared at him for so long that Lee had to smile. "What is it? Do I have something on my face?" Sam shook her head and walked closer. Her voice was so soft it sounded like it came straight from her heart. "I feel better now." Lee lifted his head, relief flooding his eyes. "I knew it. You're improving little by little." Sam lowered her gaze, her fingers nervously twisting together. Then she looked up again, her eyes full of gratitude. "I've wanted to tell you something for a long time, but I never had enough courage." Lee set the cloth down and stepped closer. "Tell me. I'm listening." Sam took a deep breath. Her voice trembled, but every word was sincere. "Thank you for staying with me, for not abandoning me, for holding me every time I broke down, for cooking every meal, for staying overnight at the hospital, and for never blaming me for being weak." Her voice cracked on the last words, as if all the emotions she had held back for so long finally found their way out. Lee gently took her hands, holding them warm and steady. "Sam, you're not weak. Not even a little. You went through something no one should ever have to endure. And you're still standing, still trying to eat, to sleep, to smile, even just a tiny bit. You're far stronger than you think." Sam lowered her head as tears fell. Not frantic or hopeless tears this time, just light, releasing ones. "I know that without you, I wouldn't have made it." Lee quickly shook his head and pulled her into his arms. "No, you made it because of you. I only walked the path with you." Sam rested her forehead against his shoulder, her breath warm and soft. "But if you hadn't walked with me, I think I would have gotten lost." Lee stroked her hair gently, his voice low and tender like the evening breeze. "Then, let me keep walking with you, until you're fully healed. And even after that, if you want me to." Sam lifted her head slightly, her eyes wet but clear. She nodded, small but certain. "I want that." In that moment, Lee tightened his hold on her hand. Just a little, but enough for Sam to feel unmistakably that she was no longer alone on her journey of healing. And for the first time in a very long while, Sam smiled. A genuine smile, fragile but beautiful like the last rays of sunset.
Xin chào mọi người. Xin rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video hôm nay của mình. Hy vọng rằng video hôm nay sẽ mang đến niềm vui cho mọi người. Và đặc biệt là câu chuyện hôm nay mình kể về tự Sam. Sau khi cô đã mất con thì tự Sam luôn rơi vào trong tình trạng trầm cảm, đau thương. Vì đây là đứa con mà tự Sam dành rất là nhiều tình cảm nhưng đã không giữ được. Và cảnh sát Ly thì luôn bên cạnh tự Sam để chăm sóc và giúp đỡ cô. Liệu rằng tự Sam sẽ phải đối diện với cuộc sống tiếp theo như thế nào và cô sẽ bắt đầu lại ra làm sao thì mời mọi người cùng đón xem ở video tiếp theo nha. Hiện tại kênh của mình đang được phát hành vào khung giờ 7 giờ tối và 7 giờ sáng tại Việt Nam. Vì mọi người nhớ chú ý đón xem để không bỏ lỡ video mới nhất nha. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nha.